Hey, it's Tim Patterson, Trade Show Guy, Monday Morning Coffee, and I'm in my backyard. I thought I'd kind of show you a little bit about the backyard, give you a little tour. The lawn needs mowed, but Evan, my stepson, will be doing that later today. So I'm also testing out my new wireless lavalier Kimafun mic. So we'll try that as well. Anyway, I'm going to walk around and then we'll do some close-ups and see what happens. First of all, let's go back to the sunflower. We haven't had a sunflower for a long time. We got one. Got spiders on my web here. Spider webs on my shirt, my head. We did sunflower, and it's going really, really well. And it's going to probably be this high by the time everything is all over. Got the crystal gazing ball, a couple of weird flowers here, the Rasta gnome. We had a couple others, but someone got into the backyard like on New Year's Day about 3 years ago and took a couple of little statuary things we had here. We got some flower baskets along the back yard. Always a work in progress. Some new stuff here, including some lavender, some mint, which it looks like it's going to seed. Interesting. More spiders. Different kinds of lavender. Smells great. Strawberries are pretty much done, although we got a couple left. We got blueberries, which, where's a ripe one? Wow. First one of the year. First one of the season. Oh, it's got a worm in it. Maybe I don't want to eat that one. Can't have a tour of the backyard without mentioning the hammock. I've had a hammock for every summer the last several summers. We've been here 7 years this month. And it's a nice place to hide, so you don't have to do chores and stuff. We also planted lettuce for the first time this year, and it's just gone crazy. Nice butter leaf lettuce. And then this, which I'm not sure what kind it is, but it's really good. So we have a lot of salads, as you might imagine. And of course the faces of the shed here. Jenny had this one when we got married several years ago. I got her this for her birthday this year, and for her birthday a few years ago. She likes faces. They all have their eyes closed, I notice. The roses are pretty much done for right now, but if you crop them back, cut them back, they'll go crazy again later in the year, as they always do. Roses are kind of like that. We have wind chimes, always hearing wind chimes. And spider webs in my face again. See, now those are nice. There's the patio, nice little half circle patio, which we really liked when we found this house a few years back. Nice big umbrella. We replaced the umbrella skin and the seats, the cushions this year, because the other ones were pretty much torn to crap. Speaking of crap, did I step on any? Yes, I did. Now I can't put my shoes on when I go back in. It happens. We actually planted these tomatoes in, I'm going to say, early May. Here it is 6 weeks later. They've just gone crazy. There's some over here which are pretty much as tall as myself. We're going to have lots and lots of tomatoes this year. It's like our favorite fruit. It is a fruit. Tomato's a fruit, right? Right? Scruffy, come here. Come here. Come here. He's not sure what's going on. I'm just sitting here talking randomly. But anyway, we will meet Scruffy. Scruffy's a good boy. He barks at things a lot, but he's a good kid. He was a rescue dog. And we've had him just over 3 years, and we love him and he loves us. Anyway, on to the show. We had Marlys Arnold of Exhibit Marketers Cafe. Did I get it right? I think I'm doing it from memory. And we talked a lot about how the exhibit world will have to change, especially exhibits, graphics, layout, design, markers, things like that. Fun conversation. I hope you enjoy it. I want to welcome Marlys Arnold to Trade Show Guy Monday Morning Coffee. Marlys, it's been a long time, but welcome.
Well, thanks for inviting me, Tim.
When I say it's been a long time, we actually met in person once. In this trade show world, everyone crosses paths, but sometimes, sometimes physically, lots of times virtually. And we met at Exhibitor Live, I'm going to say 2012, at Classic Exhibits exhibit there. And it was a fun time.
Yes. Yes, yes, I remember that. In fact, I just came across that picture of the two of us not that
Yes.
long ago. So,
So Exhibit Marketers Cafe is kind of your umbrella of what you do. So tell me more about that.
well, I developed that website several years ago, and it's designed as a platform for exhibitor education and community. And so it's kind of evolved over the years. I obviously my background, I've been a trade show marketing consultant and trainer, exhibit trainer for over 20 years now. Hard to believe. I was like
Wow.
12 when I started.
Exactly.
But so the cafe has become like more of a community, especially these last few months, because now I'm doing every Tuesday, I do the virtual lunch in the Exhibit Marketers Cafe, where I broadcast live. It's kind of like a combination of a news broadcast, keeping people up to date, and then also now it's evolved into a talk show where I do, like we're doing today. I have guests on and we do interviews, but just kind of providing that as a way for the trade show world to stay connected and to have a place to go and provide education. So that's ultimately my focus, is to help exhibitors be better educated and to do a better job at their trade shows whenever those start again.
Well, it's important. It's an important role you play because, as we both know, trade shows have a lot of moving parts, and if you drop one or two of
Right.
them, it can spell disaster, and then the budget goes out the window, and people wonder what went wrong. So, that's kind of like an ongoing thing. What did we do right this time versus what did we do wrong, and what did we learn? What can we take to the next one? So it's great that you're
Right.
focusing on that. And I know here in the COVID-19 pandemic, we're all trying to figure out how to stay connected, and the trade show exhibit industry just kind of went kaput for we don't know how long.
Yeah.
So yeah. So how
No,
are you
and
dealing with all that?
I think that's the hardest part, is that not having any idea. I keep saying if we do that, like it would all be over September, we could go back to normal. I think then we could go, okay, I can deal with that.
Right.
But when it's so fluid and there's no, there's really no end in sight at this point.
Right.
It's still dominoes falling, and it's just hard to just stay motivated. So that's why, I mean, those Tuesday virtual lunches are as much for me as it is for the community, because it's so great to feel connected and
Yeah.
to have a community. And I think that's one thing that we're all missing, because we are so used to getting together and doing trade shows multiple times a year, or at least, seeing the same people at least once a year.
Yeah.
And so to be able to feel like we're still connected, and I think it's just a really important tool right now.
Agreed. Zoom meetings are great. They're not like a handshake or a hug,
No.
but face to face is best. But we do what we can, and I've just seen a lot of interesting articles over the last. I don't want to digress too much, but over doing virtual expos and things like that. And some of them look like they've really pulled off some really successful
Yes.
things, and others have kind of not done that great. But
Yeah, well, and it's been interesting too, because sometimes the ones that you think, oh, these are, this is a big name, they're really going to knock it out of the park, and it's like, and then there's other ones that just, and I won't name names,
right.
but then there are other ones that really have knocked it out of the park and been very, very impressive. So I can't even tell you how many virtual conferences and trade shows I've attended in the last 3
Right.
months. I even produced a virtual summit of my own. So
Without getting out of your slippers, right?
yeah, exactly. So it's interesting. It's one of those things where right now the audience is much more forgiving if there are some glitches and challenges, but now's the time to get it all, to get it together, because this is going to be ongoing. The virtual side of things is not going away. So that's something else that exhibitors are going to have to get used to, is they're not only going to have the physical side, which is obviously evolving and changing. Whenever we do go back to having physical meetings again, there's going to be a lot of things that need to be different, but there's also going to be that virtual component, which again, some exhibitors are doing much better than others. It was kind of funny, well, funny and sad.
Yeah.
At one of the virtual shows that I attended, this was one where they actually had the graphical, exhibits where it looked like you were actually walking up to the exhibit. And would you believe there was one I went to that actually was empty? There was no, and it's like, it's part of the software where they have, like, because you could tell it was like the same
Right.
people in all the different booths. This one booth was completely empty. There was no staff. There was no people. Like,
Well, walking
okay,
by an
guys.
empty booth in a real show is kind of odd. It's like,
Yeah,
why?
that's pathetic
Yeah,
enough. But when you're
I
in an
know.
online environment, there's really no
I
excuse.
know exactly. So I'm curious to talk about. You had an article in the last couple of weeks. I get your newsletter, and it
Mhm.
focuses on adapting exhibits for the near future, and actual exhibits, how the construction and design might change. I'm curious to kind of your top of the line thoughts on that and what brought that article about.
Well, I think because there's been so much talk in the industry about, how the logistics of the show is going to change, the registration and the traffic flow and all that kind of stuff. But I didn't really see anybody talking about the actual exhibit, how it's going to change. And so I just started brainstorming and, okay, here's some things, like graphics and signage are going to be very important, being able to have some kind of a path through the booth. There's going to be a lot of things that are going to need to be different, at least, and I titled it near with parentheses
Yep.
because, again, we don't know how long this is going to go or if this is going to be our new normal. So, we got to figure these things out.
Yeah, we are kind of in unprecedented times, and you're right. When we do get back, will it be tentatively? Will, they be much smaller shows, more wide open layouts and things like that? I'm sure the organizers have to think about that as well as the exhibitors, and they've got to have
Yeah.
attendees there to make it work, and the attendees have to feel comfortable. So there's just so many different
Yeah.
stakeholders, really.
Well, and that's where I keep saying it's like I've always said it doesn't matter how many people are at the show, it matters the quality of the people that are at the show.
Right.
Well, going forward, we know the audience, the physical audience is going to be lower because there will be less people, whether it's for budget, for safety, whatever reason, there will be less people on the show floor. But that's not to say that it's going to be a lower quality audience. The people who are there are going to be the most serious. So, it's not a time to be afraid of, oh, well, am I going to waste money going to the show? No, you're going to have the highest quality prospects there on the show floor to talk to. And you're also adding the virtual audience, which most of the shows that have been doing the virtual are seeing their audience percentage is way above anything they see in the physical world. And a lot of times it's brand new audience that have never attended in real life. So,
Yep.
so there's a lot of audience, but there's going to be a lot of things like hands-on demos.
How's that
Most
going to
people
work?
are probably not going to want to participate in that. So, how can you rethink that? And again, there's technology. I mean, it's like, that's one reason I'm doing the virtual lunches is because there's so many new things to report all the time. There's new technology and new tools that are coming out where you can use, virtual reality and augmented reality and different things that you can do to make it more participatory without being high touch. There's all different kinds of tools that you could use to interact both before and after the show as well, especially with the virtual platforms. There's things that you need to do. I've always told exhibitors that pre-show promotions are very important,
Very important.
because
Yep.
otherwise it's taking what I call the field of dreams approach and just hoping people come to your booth. But pre-show promotions now are going to be even more important because you're going to have to kind of educate these people what they can expect in your booth or why they should come to your booth, because they're not going to want to be wasting their time and wandering in and out of every booth on the floor.
And one of the things you mentioned is allow for more open space in your booth in this article.
Yes.
Do you think that will, cause some of them exhibitors to like get bigger spaces, but just spread out the pieces of their exhibit, or have new exhibits redesigned? I mean, budget's obviously a big part of the exhibit, but that's something they got to be considering depending on who they are.
Well, and it doesn't necessarily mean they have to go with a bigger booth. They just have to restructure and what do I want to say, relay out their booth maybe. Like things like if they'd had a theater space or something where they had crowd gatherers, not a good idea going forward. You're not, the whole idea now is you don't want to attract a big crowd of people into one place. So if you've had like half your exhibit has been for a theater space, restructure, relay that out to where you can have your displays kind of spaced out. Like say if you had a 20 by 20 island and half of that was theater, then take what's left and space that out so that it's not as crowded. There's also the little sound dome things now, the technology where people can go into little individual areas and have like a personal presentation and things like that. So it's just going to take rethinking. And we've got this time right now. I mean, this is a wonderful gift on one hand that,
Yeah.
there aren't shows happening right now. We're not in crunch time. We've got time to figure it out before the next show happens.
And there's
So,
thousands of people in the industry that are working on that and trying to figure that out as well. Uh, and you talk about that. It's curious to hear what comes up out of that as time goes on. People start to dig
mhm.
deeper and deeper into that. But you raised an interesting aspect to that. Is I know a lot of professional presenters. I'm sure you do too. What's that going to do to them, even if things get back to quote unquote normal? How are they going to be affected if large crowds in tighter spaces are kind of going to be frowned upon or
Yeah.
avoided completely?
Yeah, and that's a really good question. I don't know how that's going to work, and those people are going to need to take this time right now to figure out too. Is there something that they can do? Like, I did actually see one of the virtual shows I went to. They had a magician, and so in their booth when you got there, that was like their welcome video. Was the magician was doing his
Right.
routine and talking about the company, and it was very clever. He did the cup thing, where he moves it around. He was using the product, the exhibitor's product under the cups, and talking about what they did. And so that was part of their virtual booth. So again, it's like disruption is the catalyst for innovation, I think.
I
And
think so.
so,
Yeah.
we couldn't have hit a bigger disruption than we did this year. But I think the companies that really innovate and come up with clever things and ways to do things are going to come out of this looking so much better in the end than rather than the ones that just sit around and go, oh, well, there's nothing we can do. This just totally killed our business. Just figure out what you can do to be different. And I think we'll see some new superstars rise to the top.
I wouldn't be surprised. It is certainly changing the landscape. I know on January
Hmm.
1st, when this year started, a lot of us had great hopes for it. And, within a couple of
Yeah.
months, we kind of went, wait, what road is that?
Yeah.
And so I'm just curious, before we wrap this up here, Marlys, about what your sense is of when, if things get back to normal. Will we get back to normal, or will we just have something kind of different always in the next 8 or 10 years that's just going to be the way we go?
Well, Tim, I wish I had a crystal
I know,
ball,
yeah, I
but
know exactly. I'm not looking for a prediction. I'm just curious if you have a sense of that.
well, my gut feeling is that things won't be up and running really solidly until at least sometime next year.
You're right.
I think there are still shows that are holding out hope that they can actually have their event later this year. I think a lot of that's going to depend on what happens in these next few weeks if we can't get things under control in this country. But if, once things finally level out and we're able to start having shows again, like I said, I think you're going to see the in-person audience be a fraction of what it used to be, but add that virtual audience in, and you may be actually reaching more people than you did in the past. So I think if exhibitors can just hang in there, learn the new skills and the new tools, and how to reinvent themselves going forward, that it's going to still be a successful marketing tool. I mean, I think trade shows, as we know, trade shows are a key element in most companies' marketing plans because that face-to-face is so important. And I think that once we can get back to that on whatever level and still be reaching people, and even in the meantime, like I said, taking advantage of any virtual opportunities that come up, just stay in connection with the people. That's another podcast and blog episode I did recently, was about the importance of communication and to continue that communication. Don't ghost on people right now. I mean,
Right.
I'm finding that's what a lot of companies are doing, is just like, oh, well, we don't know what to say, so we won't say anything. It's like, no, stay in communication. Don't let people forget who you are and what you do.
You're right. And I think, as you mentioned just a minute ago, there will be a few stars that arise out of the situation that
Mm-hmm.
have figured out how to grasp the right thing and make themselves known. So, before we
Right.
close, I'm curious to know a little bit. Tell me about your podcast, the Trade Show Insights, your history, and how often that comes out and where to find it.
Well, Trade Show Insights I started actually back in 2006. So it's funny how everybody talks about, oh, podcasting is the latest thing. I'm like,
Right.
no, it's been around a long time, as you know, too.
Oh, exactly. I did one in about the same time.
Yeah. So, but I started it back in 2006, and so it's kind of a combination. Sometimes it's an episode where it's just like the one that you talked about, the adapting exhibits. That's just me sharing my thoughts and ideas.
Right.
Sometimes it's an interview format, and I've had a lot of different people on. Right before all this happened, I had just done an interview with Nancy Drapeau from Sear about following up on their sponsorship report. So yeah, so a lot of different things. I typically do at least one episode a month. Depends on the month and how much time I have and how much I'm traveling. But and then, like I said, now I'm doing the virtual lunch on Tuesdays, and so that kind of is another separate thing, but also still, another way that people can stay connected and keep up with what's going on. So the podcast is really easy. It's tradeshowinsights.com. And then if they're interested in the virtual lunch, you can go to exhibitmarketerscafe.com
Okay.
slash lunch.
/lunch. Great. Okay, Marlys, I appreciate you spending time. Hope we get to see each other at some point face to face. We don't know
Yes.
when, as long as it's safe and everyone's traveling and everything, but at some point, again, thank you for joining me. I appreciate it.
Well, thanks, Tim. I enjoyed it too.
Well, we're going to wrap it up. Thanks again to Marlys Arnold for being a part of the show today. Really appreciate it, Marlys. And also hope you enjoyed the tour. Behind me I'm back in the office. Behind me are 3 prints of the Beatles, John and Paul, and then John again at a press conference. This was in Los Angeles, the second to last day that they toured and officially closed down their live shows. They played the next day in San Francisco. These particular shots were given to me by the photographer. I should say given to me. I bought them from him for a dime, basically, $20. This was like a good 25 or 30 years ago. Met him at a party. We got to talking, and he was kind of down on his luck. He's long gone now. Chuck Boyd is the photographer, but to my knowledge, these prints have never been published, and these are from the original negatives, and I paid $20 for all 3 of them. And finally, after keeping them in a file for so long, my wife said, "You should get those framed." So I got them framed here not too long ago. So let's call that this week's one good thing: some unpublished prints by the photographer of the Beatles on their second to the last day that they toured on this week's Trade Show Guy Monday Morning Coffee. Have yourself a great week, and hopefully we'll catch you again next week here on Trade Show Guy. Please go to TradeshowGuy.net. That's where my headquarters are, the hub for everything that we do here at Trade Show Guy blog and Trade Show Guy exhibits. Have a good one.